Today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Russia is going to go to war with Mesopotamia slash Caucasia. Now this has actually happened in Ades Pro's WICSO in the most recent episode, and we're going to be seeing my prediction. Or, well, this isn't really my realistic prediction. This is just a fun prediction. I actually kind of think the way this prediction goes is actually the opposite of what I actually think is going to happen. But this is kind of what I want to happen. Now, I honestly can't be asked to look up an Ades Pro video to see what the front line looks like. So we're just going to assume that Russia has kind of invaded on all sides. And if we look at the military alliances, I also forgot what these alliances look like. So actually, I might have to pull up the video for that. Also, I'm pretty sure I just recorded a video, but I didn't have OBS open. And I only realized after I finished recording it. And also, that video was kind of terrible. I was doing like a country draft, but like I just not a WICSO expert, so I just can't do that. There we go. I went ahead and added this orange country to the alliance. But anyway, we have just seen that the Mesopotamian alliance have sent in their troops, and they will absolutely bolster through into Russia. Russia is really not prepared for this, and they need some time to go ahead and kickstart their army. However, this leads to two huge encirclements, as Russia will go ahead and lose. And with this, they are forced to retreat their troops from this region of fear of being encircled, in which is the right choice, as they will go ahead and escape. Well, over here, Russia does launch a decisive counterattack, actually managing to go ahead and encircle this land like so, successfully crushing it. However, then Russia will be pushed back, and for the first part of this war, we have some pretty big action, but it's mainly just back and forth action. We see that the three-point star alliance will go ahead and find some allies in this green team over here. And the green team, thinking they're all that, will go ahead and launch an invasion into this country nearing the capital. However, then they will face a huge military defeat. And we actually see that around 100,000 Russian troops are actually already stationed in this country as they are preparing to launch an invasion, in which they do, and it goes incredibly well, as we quickly see that all of this country will go ahead and fall over. We see that calls for arms are sent to countries like Persia and this yellow country. However, these countries really are like, we don't really care that much. Like, we're more focused with this brand new news that, the world is ending soon, so we're not going to care. We continue to see the Mesopotamian troops push up, and they go ahead and push up far and wide. And now, I've been an absolute noob by not turning on the major cities layer. So there we go. We see that this major city will go ahead and fall. We then see that this spearhead, it's absolutely just encircled and crushed, which is a huge blow for Mesopotamia, who will go ahead and push back. However, they will push back the Russians over here, taking the Caspian port, and we actually see that a naval frontier will go ahead and be created. But anyway, there we go. Here are the two navies, and we actually see over here the Russia's navy will just destroy Caucasia's navies. However, we then soon see that some countries will go ahead and start sending over their navies over here, and we actually see that a huge battle will take place, and we see that the Mesopotamian forces will reclaim direct naval control around the waters around them. However, they will not be able to go ahead and gain any more. Meanwhile, we see that Mesopotamia continues their advance, and we see that it's looking ever more likely that India will be joining this war. However, Russia is not out for the count. They are stronger than the Mesopotamian country, and if you know anything about Russia, you know that the people are super nationalistic, as Russia will look at these millions of troops and will send about tens of millions, as millions of Russian troops will just absolutely crash into the border. Now, they are conscripts, but when you have millions of people, what can you do? And they will absolutely just bolster through these forces, encircling them. And then over the following weeks, we see Russian forces absolutely dominate the north of Caucasia. However, to this point, that India says if Russia does not go ahead and leave this war, and India says if Russia does not go ahead and leave Caucasia, then they will have no choice but to join the war. And to that, Russia says, yeah, how about now? We see that Australia officially joins Russia's military alliance and goes over to India and says, hey, if you join the war against Russia, I will launch a full-scale invasion into Southeast Asia, cut off the Strait of Malacca with my very powerful navy, and you will have no trade, and I will starve your economy. And now people are like, can Australia really do that? They are the fifth strongest country, although they do have a lot of navy, as they are an island nation, or I guess islands nation. And across the world, actually, in surprisingly countries like China, we see that China goes over to both India and Australia saying, hey, this is a regional war. We do not want a world war. Like, you saw what happened to me. So let's not do this. And Australia and India will go ahead and actually sign a peace treaty in which they agreed that neither of them will join the war. And a lot of the world signs this saying, hey, we want to keep this to a regional conflict. Like, we don't want to join this. However, we do see that many countries do send financial support to Caucasia, which allows them to go ahead and push back, encircling and wiping out this major city. While in terms of navy, the Mesopotamian countries are far superior, and they've gone ahead and gained complete naval control of this region and this lake. As Mesopotamian forces have landed in this brown country, securing the south before quickly securing the capital. We then see a huge counteroffensive will be launched, actually managing to encircle a bunch of Mesopotamian forces here. However, they will then win a decisive battle for the city, and we really see that Mesopotamia is showing why it's the 10th strongest country in the world. Meanwhile, over here, we actually see that this water is going to return to normal color because it's annoying me. While over here, the Russian Navy will continue to win victory after victory, actually managing to do a lot of damage to the Mesopotamian country. We also see that Greece, who has gone ahead and pledged neutrality, is actually not letting any more Mesopotamian troops into this because it's disrupting the Black Sea trade. And they're basically like, no way, like, we're not having this. Like, we're not having anyone bring, like, naval, I don't know what warships into the Black Sea, even if Russia is the inherently evil country. However, we see up in Finland, the rebels will go ahead and rise up, securing the capital, claiming that they are here to go ahead and re-establish Finland, in which they basically do. As we see, this new Finland will even launch their own invasion into Russia. However, this is like civilian military, and Russia's like a full-scale military. So they will go ahead and withdraw a lot of forces, now holding a defensive line and lost this front line. However, with these brand new freed up forces, they're going to smash right into Finland, and they will just go in and wipe it out. And with this, Russia is free to push down here. Now, Mesopotamian countries are sending their forces. However, Russia is just overwhelming them, which means Mesopotamia is going to go ahead and need a distraction. And what better distraction than a giant brown blob, as Mesopotamia will go ahead and get the Siberian countries to go ahead and help it. However, things will escalate when Russia gets a new ally, which is actually Seafoam Green Siberia over here. And now everyone's like, whoa, this is escalating into a full world war. But Russia's like, hey, you don't retaliate when the brown team join, but you retaliate when the Seafoam Green does. And everyone's like, well, yeah, you're kind of evil. Now, would the Seafoam Green country do this? I don't really know their politics. It is either hasn't talked about their politics that much, or I'm just an idiot. But just for the content of the video, we see that Seafoam Green Siberia will begin an invasion. Now, I don't really know what they're going for because there's nothing really to get. But, you know, they'll do something. As we see that they send forces mainly in the south of the country along the blue guys' borders, looking something a bit like this. While over here, brown Siberian troops will launch an invasion into Russia, actually managing to secure a lot of land. And we even see that the pink team will now go and join this. And by now, we can kind of see that the 3-Point Star Alliance probably does now outpower Russia, which is pretty bad. However, Russia is not out for the count, as they will push back the brown Siberians in these two locations. Up over here, however, Mesopotamia does go ahead and continue their rampage, pushing in here. However, they are kind of putting too many resources into here, and it is very hurting the Caucasian front, which continues to collapse, as we see that Russia is just, like, selling its lives, essentially. Like, Mesopotamia and the 3-Point Star Alliance are like, hey, we want to, you know, make sure that, you know, we aren't just sending our people to die. Russia is like, I can do whatever I want. And we see that despite the Mesopotamian countries having more manpower they could use, Russia still has more troops than all of them combined, as Russia will continue to absolutely just swelter down this round. However, Mesopotamia quickly realizes this and launches a decisive counterattack. However, they cannot really push too far, as Russia still retains a pretty big presence in the country. While over here, Russia will use this to push back against the brown team, as they even launch a huge spearhead over here, actually encircling a huge chunk of brown team forces, like so, and they will quickly work together to wipe these guys out. And I actually did that the wrong way around. We see up here that Russia has reached brown Siberia's capital, and this occupation has gone over to the pink team, who have pushed pretty far into Russia. And also this, like, little weird blue rat over here has been invaded, like so. While down here, Mesopotamia continues their advance, wiping out the orange team's capital, now pushing them towards whatever the old name of this country was. It's not looking too good for Russia, and Russia knows this, and we see that Russia kind of has to hope to go ahead and win a swift victory. As we see that Russia will prepare for the biggest military invasion in history, as I said, 10 million troops down into the Caucasus. Now, honestly, you know, with how far in the future we are, everyone probably has like 1 billion people or something, if they can go in and support that. But ADIS still uses modern warfare and population sizes for some reason. But anyway, a number that is super hard to go ahead and comprehend amount of troops will absolutely just pour into the country. Now, Russia loses around 5 million people in this invasion, but do they really care? as we quickly see the Caucasia is split into three, as Russian troops, for the first time in, I don't know, like 1,000 trillion years, will enter Mesopotamian land. However, we quickly see that the people in Mesopotamia's alliance will absolutely not like this. Mesopotamia will go ahead and find itself some allies in the rest of these Anatolian countries over here. And we see that Persia goes ahead and joins this war. However, at this point, Russia is going to go ahead and reveal who has been supporting them. It's actually been China and Red Australia. Now, we knew about Red Australia and we kind of knew about China, but China is actually a full-on supporter of Russia, kind of viewing this new world order dominated by the Mesopotamians as, like, I mean, they kind of hate it. Also, by the way, everyone is still trying to figure out what these weird things in the sky are, whereas Russia is mainly and solely focused on invading people. Which is why Russia is winning. The main reason Russia is winning right now is because everyone else is too focused on other things. However, with these new forces, we see that a brand new offensive will be pushed up. However, we see that this offensive is honestly kind of disappointing, as this region over here will actually even go ahead and fall over to Russia if I can click the right tool. Oh, and I just turned the whole map into a gradient. Oh, and I just turned the map into gradient times 2. However, over here, Russia is having great success as they've gone ahead and wiped out the brown Siberian country, which eventually went ahead and surrendered over to these two guys. Like so. Well, over here, Russia has continued to push back the pink team, and even the blue team down here will win some pretty big offensive against the pink team. And things are looking up for Russia. However, this war has been dragging on for around 10 years now, and there really isn't an end in sight. And Mesopotamia does push it back against the Russians, however the Russians then send in more children and push them back. And eventually, we see, for the sake of all countries involved, that Russia is going to go ahead and agree to a peace treaty, in which they will take minimal land from Caucasia and agree to like a 20-year truce with all of the Middle East. And we can go ahead and look at this peace treaty. And there we go, looking at this peace treaty, we can see a few things. Firstly, Russia has fully annexed Finland and most of the brown Siberian country, with the rest of it going over to seafoam green Siberia, who now look extremely weird. Down here, we see that Russia took some land from the Caucasus. Well, over here, this green team took some land, or basically fully annexed whatever countries were up here, I don't really know who. And yeah, that is this war. Now, this war might have been pretty underwhelming for you to watch, if I'm being honest. And that is really because Russia couldn't win this. It is almost impossible for Russia to win this unless they have secret allies. And honestly, I wanted to put out a video, but I didn't want to drag it on too long. So if you guys really didn't like this video, do let me know. And I'll just, upload less and try and make better content than this. But I'm trying to upload a bit more. Obviously, I'm not purposely destroying my content, but for this video specifically, I did feel like it was a bit lackluster. But I'll try and improve it for next time. But anyway, let me know what you thought on this video, and let me know who you think is going to win the war.